What's up, everybody? Welcome to the first ever live Q&A show here at Loop Community. What we're going to be doing today for the next 40 minutes is I'm going to be taking questions live on how to do different things in using tracks in worship. So if you're using Ableton Live or Prime or whatever you're using, different types of hardware, we're going to just answer a couple different questions that you guys have. I have a list too of some recent questions that were asked from our community, so I'm going to go through those. But if you guys have any questions about using tracks in worship, go ahead and type it into the comment box wherever you're watching this, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube, and then we're actually going to post that question on the video, and I'm going to answer it live. And so hopefully this is going to help you guys as you're using tracks in worship. We get a lot of questions here at Loop Community about different things, and so I've come up with a list of some of the most common questions, some recent questions, and we're going to dive into them. So the first thing I'm going to show you is we're going to look at Ableton Live. And I'm an Ableton Live certified trainer. I've used Ableton Live since 2002, and it's powerful software for running tracks, no matter how big or how small your church is. Ableton Live is a great piece of software to do that. So I'm using Ableton Live 11 over here, and you can see my screen. And the first question I'm going to look at today is, how do you edit tracks? So let's just say you purchase tracks from Loop Community and you want to then edit those tracks. Maybe you want to customize them inside of Ableton Live so that it is the arrangement that you want. Well, I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to show you, we're going to use Arrangement View to do this. So I'm going to go to Arrangement View by just hitting the Tab key, or you can hit the little horizontal bars up here in the top right corner to go to Arrangement View. And let's go ahead and bring in a track. Now let's just say you're doing Glorious Day, okay? So what I would do first is bring in the tracks, just like this, drop them in. Again, actually before we even do that, I just want to show something that make sure that when you first install Ableton Live, under Preferences, under Record, Warp, and Launch, just make sure that Auto Warp Long Samples is turned off, okay? You only have to do that once. Once you do it once, it's saved forever in your preferences, but you want to make sure that's turned off. A lot of times people say, hey, I dragged audio into Ableton Live and it's out of time, it's out of sync with the click. Just make sure that Auto Warp Long Samples is turned off. Okay, that's the first thing you have to do when you install Ableton Live. So once that's done, now let's go ahead and start dragging our audio. And you can drag in more than one audio clip at a time by just holding, I'm going to hold Shift to select all of these. And then I'm going to drag and drop. Now notice it's trying to drop them in horizontally down the timeline. I want to drop them in vertically, so I'm going to hold the Command key. And now it's going to drop in all of those audio clips vertically, and it created tracks for all of them. Let's go ahead and press play to see if we can hear it. Cool. We can go and skip and like fast forward by just clicking and dragging on this. Sweet. So now that we've got our tracks in here, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure the tempo on the grid of Ableton Live is the tempo of the song. And what I mean by the grid is that when I zoom in on this, you'll notice that the click here is not in sync with the grid in Ableton Live. The grid is like these little bars here that are on the timeline. You want those to be lined up, because when you start editing things, you want it to be very precise, and you want to make sure you're editing right on the downbeat and not just somewhere in the middle. So to go ahead and get the grid to line up, notice that when I drag this, see how you can kind of see where it's lined up. You can kind of visualize it, but we want it to be exact. So I'm going to type in 110 because the tempo of Glorious Day is 110. So I'm going to type in 110, hit enter. Now if we zoom in, you'll see that these are like lined up perfectly. I could double check it by just turning on the Ableton click like this and press play. Now the click is on. You can't even hear it, and it's because it's blending in so perfectly. Oh, there it is. Okay, so now what we're going to do is to start editing this track. The first thing I like to do is go and add markers of where in the song we are. So you can add markers by clicking on this little button that says Set. When you click on Set, it adds a little flag or a marker that you can rename by right-clicking on it, choose Rename, and you can type in what you want to call that marker. So let's just call this one Intro. Okay, and let's go ahead and bring in And you know what we're missing? We're missing the cue track. I'm going to bring in the cue track real quick. There we go. So that lets me see kind of where those sections are. I think this is the intro. Let's see.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
Cool. And then whatever this one is, I'm going to add another marker.
Verse 2.
All right, this is a verse. So I'm going to click right here, click on set. Let's go and rename this and call it verse. Okay, and we're going to scroll down to the next cue and see what this one is.
Verse 2.
This is another verse. I'm going to click set. Now I'm not going to do the whole song because this will take a while. Probably take 10 minutes, but I'm going to show you, just do a little bit.
Pre-chorus.
Okay, this is the pre-chorus. I'm going to hit set, right click, choose pre-chorus. Let's see what this one is.
Chorus.
Okay, this is the chorus. All right, and we'll do one more here. What is this?
Turnaround 2, 3, 4.
Turnaround, like the intro. So I'm just going to call it intro. Okay, so I would do the whole song, but what this does is it gives you a good, just like an overview of what the song, where in the song the sections are, and that's going to help you when you're editing them. So what we're going to use is we're going to use this little bracket right here at the very top called the loop bracket, and this bracket always lives at the very top of the screen. And let's just say you're like, you know what, I want to do this intro twice. Well, all you have to do is take that bracket and hug that section. So I can just adjust it so it is the entire intro section. I'm going to right click and choose duplicate time, and it's going to duplicate that time section. So now I have two intros. Now the problem is that the cues are going to be wrong because we duplicated it at the end. So here's what it sounds like.
Verse 2, 3, 4.
When actually we want it to go back to the intro. So all you do is you just click this cue and just drag it back, and boom, now you have another intro cue.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
So now your band knows exactly that you're repeating that intro again. Now let's just say you're like, hey, you know what? We want to cut this, cut this verse. I can take the loop bracket, highlight this section, right click, and choose delete time. And now it's going to delete that entire section of time. All right. So now you can kind of customize your song just like this. You can duplicate time, you can cut time, delete time, and create, make the track exactly the arrangement that you want. Now what I would do at this point is let's just say I've kind of customized this entire song, moved the verses around wherever I want them to be. Now what I would do is I would do Command A to select all, and then go to File, Export Audio. And it's going to say, what do you want to export? I'm going to say export all individual tracks. And then I'm going to click export. Then what it's going to do is it's going to save every single one of these tracks as a new WAV file with my new arrangement. So then I would have a brand new set of WAV files that I could then use in a future Ableton session. So that's how I would customize audio. Let's just say I bought a track from Loop Community and I wanted to customize it inside of Ableton Live. That's how I would do that. So before we get to, actually we have a question. Let's get to that question right now. Okay. The question is, can you use Looptimus to trigger songs in Ableton? And play pads. That's a great question. All right, here's what we're gonna do. I've got Looptimus plugged in right here. You definitely can use Looptimus to trigger songs in Ableton. So here's Looptimus. Let's talk about, first of all, how you would trigger songs, okay? So I'm gonna go to, let's use session view in this example. So I've plugged in Looptimus. Now I'm gonna go to live preferences, and under MIDI, where it says Looptimus, under remote, I wanna make sure that remote is turned on because we're gonna be using the Looptimus controller as a remote control, okay? So make sure that remote is turned on. Now what you wanna do is, let's go and just bring in, a couple different songs. Let's just say we're gonna bring in Great Things, okay? I'm just gonna click and drag and drop, and let's do another one, Found in You. Okay, click, drag, and drop. And you can just keep bringing in all your songs. Now what I would do is you can just click on the MIDI button inside of Ableton Live right here in the top right corner. And anything that you see on the screen that turns purple can be assigned to a button on the Looptimus pedal, all right? Anything that is blue can be assigned to a button here. And Looptimus has 20 different pages. So you can use the next and previous buttons to cycle through the pages. And then each page has 6 buttons, A, B, C, D, E, and F. So it depends how you want to think about this, but you could have 20 pages and then each song has, intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, and then there's a global stop button. Or if you just want to keep it simple, maybe just page 1 is song 1 right here, and then you go to page 2, and that's song 2. Page 3, song 3. So let's go ahead and actually set it up like this though. Let's just use one page, and we're going to do song 1, song 2, song 3. So you just click on the scene right here for the first song and click 1A, and it's going to assign that button to that song.
Intro 2,
Okay.
3, 4.
And let's go ahead and close out MIDI. Oh, you know what? It's actually triggering Prime. Let me go and close Prime real quick. All right, so now I had Prime open, so it was playing Prime. I'm going to press 1A.
Intro
And it starts song
3,
1.
4.
B, 1B, now starts song 2. And if I want to make that global stop button, I can just assign the stop button to the stop button right here. And now when I press a song and press the stop button, it's going to go ahead and stop all the tracks. Now the way you would do that inside of Arrangement View, let's just say we're in Arrangement View, you could definitely, let's just say this is song 4, okay? I could actually assign these little locators to sections of the song. So I could have this intro be 4A, all right? And then the verse is 4B, and then the chorus is 4C. You can actually assign those 2 buttons on the Looptimus so that you could actually jump around in the song. So let's go ahead and try that out, right? So I've got 1A. Now we're in the intro. Verse, chorus. Let's go back to the verse. Chorus. So you could use the Looptimus to be completely spontaneous inside of Ableton Live. And that's a great way to control tracks inside of Ableton Live. Now, one way you could also be spontaneous inside of Ableton Live is how do you actually create sections inside of Session View? Because some people really just want to run Session View. So I'm going to delete these real quick. And when you're in Arrangement View, if you've created these sections like this, what you can actually do is highlight using this loop bracket. Again, just highlight it like that. And then right-click and choose Consolidate Time to New Scene. And it's going to create a scene in Session View that we can call, there it is right here, just made it, we're going to call it verse. Okay, and let's go ahead and make another one. Let's just say we want to make one called chorus. So I'm going to highlight the chorus section, choose Consolidate Time to New Scene. Okay, now we're in Session View, and we can call this one chorus. And let's do one more. Let's do this intro section. Okay, which is right here. I'm going to right-click, Consolidate Time to New Scene. So you can actually create sections of songs inside of Session View. I think this is the easiest way to do it. And now I could use Looptimus to map the sections. So let's just go to like page, let's just say it's song number 6. Okay, this is song number 6 in our set list. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to MIDI, and I'm going to assign, the verse to 6A, the chorus to 6B, the intro to 6C, and then the global stop button is already assigned. So now, by launching 6A, we're in the verse. Let's go to the chorus. Let's go back to the verse. Back to the intro. To the chorus. If you want to stop the track, just hit the stop button. So, you can use those sections and then assign them to buttons on the Looptimus pedal to be really spontaneous with your tracks. So that's a great way. I know there's some people who just really want to use Session View. That's a great way to do it if you want to be spontaneous. So that's a great question. Thanks for asking that. All right. Another thing, I guess, do we have another question? Cool.
Can you read it?
Can you read it?
Yeah. They use MainStage for tracks, and it works okay, but they want to make changes to the mix, so they want to use Ableton, but they're not sure how to create a set list where they can flow between the songs. So arrangement, essentially, it seems like is what they're hoping.
Yeah, a set list and arrangement view.
But they don't know how to do it. So can you show that a little
Yep.
bit?
So making a set list inside of arrangement view. Let's go into arrangement view, and actually let's go and just create a whole brand new set. Start from scratch here. So I'm going to go to arrangement view, and I like to just kind of clean out all the empty tracks that we're not going to use. So I was hitting the delete key on these. So if you want to create kind of a flowing worship set inside of arrangement view, what you're going to do is you're going to put the songs down the timeline, right, from left to right here. So let's go ahead and start with a song. Let's just say we're going to do Glorious Day, okay? So I'm going to bring in the click, drop that in, bring in the cues, all right, and now let's go and bring in all the rest of our instruments, highlighting these, deselect the ones that you don't want by holding Command, and then drop these in by holding the Command key. That drops them in vertically. So now I've got a song going down the timeline from left to right. What you could do is go ahead and the tempo of this song is 110. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a marker right here at the very top called Glorious Day. Just going to rename it Glorious Day Intro. And if I want, I could also just type in 110 just so I have that as a reference. Okay, so now we've got a song, Glorious Day, but let's just say then we have another song happening down here, and we're going to go into, let's just say, Cornerstone. So I'm going to bring in, again, the click and the cues, and then all the rest of my instruments right after Cornerstone. Okay. So now I have two songs. Let's go and close this window. Oh, let's get the BPM on that. Oh, it's 72. I'm going to close this just so we have a little bit more room. So this will be 72 BPM, and we're doing Cornerstone. All right. Now, I could just move these back to back. Now, it kind of depends if you're going to be using the click included with the track or not. Let's just say you're not using the Ableton Live click and you're going to use the click that's included with the track right here. What you can do is you can really, you know, let's just say you want these to be a little bit more smooth in their transition. What I would probably do, and let's just collapse all these by doing Command A and collapse. Just kind of gives you a little bit more space. I'm going to go ahead and actually, you can either do them back to back like this, or you can drag them down. Whoops. We have to actually create some tracks first. So I'm going to just do Command T and create a bunch of tracks. Okay. And let's go ahead and just take these and drag them down. And what you could do with this is you can kind of overlap the songs so that when this song is done playing, sorry, I actually probably want to bring that in a little bit sooner.
Intro.
So I'm going to
2.
select all these, pull it back like this.
Intro. 2, 3.
So still, I
4.
think even there's room to bring this back even more. So let's bring this back again. One more bar. Okay. We can also use some crossfades. I'll show you how to do that. So the click started
Intro.
immediately.
2, 3, 4.
Yeah, that's perfect. If you need to do any sort of like crossfading over certain instruments, you can crossfade stuff in by just clicking and dragging this to crossfade in. Or if you want to crossfade out, let's just say this one we needed to pull this back, you can just crossfade out. All right. So that's how I would set these up inside of Arrange View. You can create a set list and do it all the way down the timeline from left to right and overlap them. So like my next song, I would actually probably even just put it, you could either create a whole new set of tracks, or what you could do is just put them here at the top. So you can kind of just go back and forth. Like top 16 tracks to the bottom 16 tracks to the other top 16 tracks. That's one way to do it. There are probably 10 other ways you could do this, but I think that's the quickest and easiest way to get it done. That's a great question. All right, another question we have. Let me pull this up. Is looking at Prime. So if you want to crossfade on demand inside of Prime, let's go ahead and pull up Prime. I'm going to go ahead and close out or just minimize Ableton Live for right now. Let's look at Prime. Oh, you know what we also didn't talk about was playing pads inside of Ableton Live. And actually, I do want to show that. So let's just, while we're in Ableton, let's look at that. So one of my favorite features of the Looptimus controller is something called pad mode. Pad mode lets you play keyboard and pads from Looptimus with your feet. So all you do is you go into pad mode, just press and hold this down for a few seconds. Then we're going to use the next and previous buttons to get to pad mode, where it says pad on the screen, and hit the stop button. And inside of pad mode, what you can do is you can choose your key of your song. All right, so we can choose the key. Let's just say we're going to go to the key of D. Then button 1 will play the 1 chord of the key of D. Button 2 will play the 2 chord of the key of D, the 3 chord, the 4 chord, the 5 chord, the 6 chord. So you can then assign the Looptimus to play any sort of virtual instrument. So whether you're using MainStage, Logic, Ableton Live, GarageBand, honestly, any software out there that can be used as a virtual instrument, meaning you could play like a MIDI instrument with it, then Looptimus will work with that with pad mode. So let me just show you how you would set that up inside of something like Ableton Live. Let's go to Session View. I'm going to do Command-Shift-T to create a MIDI track right here. I'm just going to rename this and call it Pad. Okay, and now what you have to do is you just have to assign a sound to this MIDI track. And you can go to your different sounds here on the left-hand side. There's tons of sounds inside of Ableton Live, you know, or MainStage, whatever software you're using. I've got one called McCoy Shine Pad here, and it's assigned. Now, the next thing we have to do is go to Live Preferences and just make sure that Looptimus is set up to actually play an instrument inside of Ableton Live. So under Looptimus, just click on Track. You want to make sure Track is turned on. Before we were using Remote, but that's because Looptimus was being used as a remote control. Track means that now we're using Looptimus to track, or like play an instrument live. We're tracking live, you could say. So we're turning on track, okay? And now, check it out. When I press the 1 button, it played the 1 chord, the key of D. Let's go to the 4 chord, the 5 chord, the 1 chord. When you press the stop button, it's just going to stop it and fade it out. So this is a great way to use something for like a song transition, a speaking moment, you know, changing keys to go into a next song. There's a lot of things you could do with this, and you can control it all with your feet, which is really cool. And it's a feature that a lot of people don't know that Looptimus has. You can also change the octaves by just pressing and holding this button. And then you can change the octaves by going up or down by using next and previous. So now we went up an octave. And then stop. So that's pad mode, and that works with any music software that plays sounds. I would recommend, I think if I were using pad mode a lot, I would probably recommend MainStage or Logic. Those both have really great sounds in them. I'm always kind of disappointed with the sounds in Ableton Live. But MainStage has some awesome, just like pad sounds. Logic does as well. So that's pad mode with Ableton Live. Do we have any more questions, guys? All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you Prime, and we're going to talk about crossfading on demand in Prime. So I'm going to minimize this, and let's go to Prime real quick, and let's add a song. A lot of times people don't realize that in Prime you can actually set up automatic transitions and fades, crossfading inside of Prime. So let's just say we've got 2 songs. We've got At the Cross, and then we're going to go into, I don't know, let's say Christ is Enough. Okay? And they're at two totally different keys. At the cross is an A flat. You know, it ends like this. Whoops, hold on. Let me change my output. It ends like
And
this.
2, 3, 4.
Right? And then we want to go into Christ is Enough, which is in a totally different key, in B flat. Or, sorry, the key of B. How do we make that transition really smooth? Well, you could use a crossfade. So you could turn on the crossfade option over here in the top right corner of the song. Just turn on the crossfade. And what that will do is that at the end of the song, it's going to sound something like this.
And 2, 3, 4.
All right, so it's kind of
Intro 2,
a nice little
3,
fade there.
4.
I think that actually I would adjust the end time of this one so that that fade is a little quicker. So I'm just going to go down here to the end time. I'm just going to pull off maybe like 4 seconds by just decreasing the end time. So now check it out. It's going to be a little bit faster.
And 2, 3, 4.
Cool. That'd be perfect.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
Now, but let's just say though you're going to maybe have a speaking moment or you want there to be a little bit more time. Then what you can do is click on the Add Songs, and I'm going to use a prime pad. So I'm just going to search for prime pad. And let's go ahead and bring in a pad. The pad is going to sound something like this. You'll notice too that it's 10 minutes long, 10 minutes and 42 seconds long. And it'll sound something like this. I'm going to turn the click off on the pad because we don't need the click. I can also transpose the key of this pad to, let's be in the key of B. And I'm going to move this pad right in between those two songs because I want to come out of this song in A flat and go into the key of B. The pad's going to help us get there. So the pad's there. The pad is going to go for 10 minutes and 42 seconds, which is too long. So what you can do is you can turn on crossfade on the pad, and this is crossfade on demand, and not many people know you can do this. Just turn on crossfade on the pad, and then check it out. We're going to play the pad, and then you can go ahead and do your speaking time here. You could do your prayer. You could, set up the song, whatever it is you're needing to do. Maybe just let things kind of like chill and rest for a bit. But then when you're ready to go into the next song, all you have to do to enable crossfade on demand is press the next arrow.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
And that was a perfect transition, right? So that's crossfade on demand, meaning it starts the next song, it starts the crossfade on demand when I tell it to. What it started to do is it started, when I pressed the next arrow, it started the click of the next song, but it started fading out the pad and it started fading in Christ is Enough. That's crossfade on demand, a feature that a lot of people do not know even exists. Here is another thing you can do that I like to do is I like to actually just set a time limit on these. So I'm just going to click on the end time. I'm going to press the minus sign. And I'm just going to press and hold. This is another little tip for you Prime users. If you press and hold, it's going to start jumping in larger quantities. So now it's jumping in minutes here pretty soon. I'm going to bring this back to a minute or 50 seconds, meaning that now the pad is going to play for 50 seconds before it starts crossfading into Christ is Enough. So I could use this time now to do my talking, speaking, and crossfades always take about 10 seconds. So with these automatic crossfades, it's a 10-second crossfade. As of right now, there's not a way to actually change that, but we found that 10 seconds is what most people need for it to really be a smooth, perfect, nice transition. So you'll notice that in Prime, when it gets to about 40 seconds down here on this clock, the crossfade's actually going to start. And it's going to now take 10 seconds to then crossfade.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
Completely into Christ is Enough. And at 50 seconds right there on an end time, it's switched over for me automatically. So those are two ways that you could use crossfades, transitions inside of Prime. So let's go and look at, see if we have any other questions. No questions right now. All right. So let's go ahead and look at another common question. and that is being spontaneous in Prime and jumping to different sections live. All right, and this is where you could actually also use the Looptimus controller to do that. I'm going to close Ableton Live just so we don't have any sort of conflicts, because I know we had already mapped a bunch of stuff to Ableton Live. But one thing you can do with Prime is you can actually be spontaneous while you're playing. So let's just look at Christ is Enough, and I'm going to show you how, while it's playing, if you click on a section of a song, we have something called jump time. And if you go to the settings, you'll see a section here called jump time. And you can choose when it jumps. So when you click on it, it triggers jump time, but this tells you how soon it actually is going to jump to the next section. So by default, it's set on end of section. You could have it be 1 bar or 2 bars. I think it's best to have end of section because you typically want to finish singing what you're currently singing before you go somewhere else. So I would keep it on end of section, but check it out. Here's what you can do. Let's just say you're in the chorus. Chorus is playing, and let's just say you're like, you know what? We don't want to go to the verse. Let's just do the intro.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
So I just tapped. I clicked on intro, and it kind of queued it up. You can see it light up. It's queuing up that section to jump to when it's done playing. So let's do it again. After this intro, we're gonna jump to the bridge. So I'm gonna click on the bridge. It highlighted it. Notice that the cues also dynamically change.
Bridge 2, 3, 4.
So you can be totally spontaneous with tracks by using jump time and just clicking on the section that you want. It's pretty awesome. Now you can set this up with Looptimus. So let's go ahead and pull Looptimus out. All right. All you do is you click on MIDI. So in the top left corner, when you click on MIDI, now anything that you see that has a white box on it can be mapped or assigned to a button on Looptimus. So what I'm going to do is, well, first thing we have to do is go back to, we have to get out of pad mode. And let's go back to default mode. Okay. And we're going to make button 1, we're going to make that the start of Christ is Enough. Then button 2 will be the intro. So I'm going to make this the intro. Button 3, let's just make this the verse. Button 4 is the pre-chorus. And button 5 is the chorus. And button 6 is, let's make this the big bridge. Okay, and then I'm going to assign the stop button down here to the global stop button. So check it out. Now I can press 1A, and it started the intro, or the start of Christ is Enough.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
And let's just say, you know what, we're gonna, after this section, we want to jump to the pre-chorus, or the verse. This is what we mapped the verse to. Actually, we're already going to the verse. Let's just jump to something totally different. Let's jump to the pre-chorus. So you can see that when I press those buttons, it's assigning that section.
Pre-chorus 2, 3, 4.
Now we're in the pre-chorus. Let's do the pre-chorus again. Click the pre-chorus button on the Looptimus.
Pre-chorus 2, 3,
Cool.
4.
And you can just keep doing that over and over and over. Let's press the pre-chorus again. So you have full control at your feet using Looptimus.
Pre-chorus 2, 3.
You can be completely
4.
spontaneous with tracks, which I think is awesome because there was a day when you were controlled by the tracks, in a sense. You'd have to press play on the track and just do whatever
Chorus 2,
it tells
3,
you to do.
4.
Otherwise, just stop the track. But this way, you actually take control of the tracks and they follow you and what you want to do. So that's how you can use jump time and MIDI controllers inside of Prime. So let me go and stop this. If you guys have any questions at all, type them into the comment box wherever you're watching this, and we can answer them here on the Loop Live show. One thing I do want to show you too is under settings, let's just look real quick what the 1 bar jump time is, because it is a little confusing, but this might work for some of you guys who are wanting to use jump time. I'm going to change it to 1 bar. Notice what's going to happen is while it's playing, I'm going to press on another section. It's going to wait 1 bar until it does what I told it to do. So let's go ahead and press play. 1, 2. So let's click on this one.
Verse 2, 2, 3, 4.
So it just waited 1 bar to jump to the next section. Let's do it again.
Interlude 2, 3, 4.
And one more time, just so we can hear it all.
Chorus 2, 3, 4.
I think it's probably pretty rare that someone's going to use 1 bar because, like I said before, you really want to finish singing what you're currently singing before you go somewhere else. But there might be an instance, where that actually might be a feature that you'd want to be 1 bar. But what's cool is the possibilities are there. We actually made that 1 bar jump time based off of Ableton. Ableton has a 1 bar jump time, and I used that for like 5 years and it was great. But we thought, end of section in Prime is perfect. So we have one more question and we're going to wrap up the show unless there's a lot more questions coming in. What is this next question?
Is there a way to do multi-song mashups with seamless transitions? So basically, Prime not quite, but Ableton,
Yeah.
yes.
So with Prime, you can't mash up the songs with a seamless transition. Like if you wanted to take a chorus of one song and put it at the end of another song, you can't do that inside of Prime at the moment. You could do that inside of Ableton Live, and you would have to do some of the editing that I was showing you earlier, where you can, inside of Ableton Live, basically completely edit those songs and copy and put the chorus at the end. And you could do that and then re-export it all. And then you could actually import that into Prime and play it in Prime as like your own like custom arrangement or a, I guess it would be called arrangement, like Cornerstone with Holy, Holy, Holy at the end of it or something. That would be like your own custom arrangement. So I would probably edit them in Ableton Live, make your custom arrangement, then upload those tracks into Prime to use them. And you can always add section markers inside of Prime once you've done that. So, but you can't actually create the mashup inside of Prime yet. So that's a great question. Thank you guys. All right, that's it for today's Loop Live Q&A, where we talked about everything about using tracks. Hopefully this has helped you guys. If you have any questions at all, type them into the comment box below, and that will give us some good questions to answer in our next Q&A. See you around.